Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. For today's video, I'm going to be showing you how I created this pink winged eyeliner look. I feel like it's a very spring look. You've got the pink winged liner, pink cheeks, pink lips. So I'm going to be showing you how I created this spring kind of makeup look. I guess a few disclaimers before we get into the video. I'm not a professional, I just love makeup, and this is just a look I have been really loving recently. Also, I have used a kind of mixture of more affordable and slightly more high-end products in this tutorial, I guess, if you can even call it that. So feel free to swap anything out with a similar product that you have or a preference that you have. Obviously, you don't have to use these exact products. I would hugely appreciate if anybody has any like recommendations for like cheaper alternatives or similar products to drop them in the comments to help anyone out. Particularly for me, I'm struggling to find a cheaper bronzer and a cheaper blush I really like. So you'd be helping me out too by dropping some recommendations of brands or products in the comments. I did want to have a few more cheaper products in this look, but unfortunately, like I just said, I've been struggling to find particularly like a cheaper bronzer and a cheaper blush that I really like. But of course, if you have a similar shade product or a similar product, you can swap out anything more high-end for something more affordable. But I feel like a fair bit of the look is pretty affordable. So anyway, with all of those kind of disclaimers out of the way, I hope that this still makes enough sense. I hope that it's still a helpful video to you, and I hope that you enjoy trying this look if you try it at home. If you do, be sure to let me know in the comments how it goes, and you can also tag me on Instagram if you try this look as well. I'll have my Instagram up on the screen and in the description. But yeah, if you're new to my channel, be sure to subscribe and turn on post notifications so you never miss an upload. And now let's just jump straight into it, shall we? Let's get straight on into how I created this look. Okay, so to start this look, first of all, of course, I'm starting with primer. So I'm starting with the e.l.f. Poreless Putty Primer. This is just what that looks like. I have been really loving this primer lately. I'm gonna be honest, I don't feel like I completely pay attention to how long my primer like holds my makeup on for, if that makes sense. I feel like primer for me is more how it makes my skin feel before I put makeup on / look before I put makeup on, if that makes sense. Like primer is more so about how it makes my base, I guess. I hope that makes sense. But yeah, so I'm just gonna dot that all over my face and then just blend that in. I feel like this primer really like kind of smooths, which I really like. It makes my skin feel like incredibly soft and smooth before applying the rest of my makeup, which I love. I feel like that just makes my makeup apply a lot better. So once I've done primer, I'm moving on to my actual base, so like foundation, concealer, that type of thing. So first off, I'm just starting with foundation. I'm just taking the number 7 Essentially Natural Foundation. Mine is in the shade Calico. I feel like this is a really good foundation if you're looking for more of a light to medium kind of buildable coverage. I love this when I just want a nice light base, nothing too full coverage. And compared to foundations I have seen, I think there are cheaper than this that are like kind of a light coverage, I guess. But this is one of the best price-wise light coverage I've found. I think this retails for about $11.95. It's not the cheapest, but it's not the most expensive, and I do really, really love it. It also has SPF in, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it has SPF 15, so that's always good too. A little bit of SPF in there. And I'm just taking the Real Techniques Miracle Complexion Sponge to apply this. If you're not a massive fan of applying your foundation with a sponge, one thing I used to do that I really liked, especially if you want to just do your foundation really, really quickly, would be to just take a brush first. And then because some foundation brushes can kind of leave lines in your foundation, I would then just go over mine with a sponge to kind of finalize it. So that's something you could do. So I'm just dotting that all over my face and then blending it out with the sponge. I absolutely love Real Techniques brushes and sponges. They're not the cheapest, particularly the sponges. I think they're like something like £7 a sponge. However, I feel like I went through a phase last year of trying different makeup sponges, and not once did I find one that compared to this. Like, I didn't once find one that was as good as my Real Techniques Miracle Complexion Sponge, so I ended up going back to this one. So they are, like I said, like a little bit more pricey for a sponge. Obviously they're cheaper than like an actual beauty blender, but yeah, I would recommend Real Techniques just because they last a long time. Some of my Real Techniques, like, I guess you could argue that the sponges don't last as long. I honestly have never been good at cleaning my makeup sponges, so it does mean having to buy new ones each time. But as far as the brushes, there's like a Real Techniques eyeshadow brush that I've had probably since 2017 or earlier, and it is still really soft and it's still a great brush, so they do last really well. Okay, so as you can see, that is just like a nice kind of natural light coverage. I feel like it's really good coverage for spring because obviously you don't want, or at least I don't personally want, like heavy kind of full coverage. If that's your thing, that's fine, but for me personally, in the spring and summer months, I don't like full coverage. And then I'm just gonna go in with a brush just to pop some on my neck. Forgot to mention, I'm using the Brushworks foundation brush. Ignore the fact it's a bit grubby. I'm filming a video after this cleaning makeup brushes, and I only just managed to get some shampoo to clean my makeup brushes with yesterday, so that's why it is in this state. Usually I'd be better at cleaning my makeup brushes. And then I'm just going to go in with that same sponge just to kind of blend over that so there's no lines in it. And then next we are moving on to concealer. Obviously you don't have to use a concealer if you don't want to. Personally, I like concealer over my foundation, but I feel like concealer is a preference. However, I'm going to be using the Rimmel Lasting Radiance concealer. This for me is in the shade Ivory, and again, I feel like concealer is a preference as to where you put it as well. So for me, I find that foundation doesn't always hit my under eyes as well, so I like to kind of just, I guess, top those up. So under the eyes, personally, I know there are different ways of doing this now. I go with the old school triangle to kind of brighten under my eyes in a way, so just like that. I feel like I used to go really like heavy on the triangle with that. And then for me personally, I like to pop a little bit on my lid as well, just kind of to act as a base for my eyeshadow. Again, it just comes down to preference and where you feel you need it. So again, for me personally, around the nose, I get quite a bit of redness around my nose, and my foundation doesn't always apply the best on my nose, so I like to just top that up with some concealer and on my nose. And then I just tend to do that and then go in on any little like spots that I feel like I need to cover. And then I'm just taking that same Real Techniques Miracle Complexion Sponge to blend that out. Obviously there are other good sponges out there. I feel like I tried, what was the name of the brand? I feel like it was like So Eco or something, which was more of like an eco brand. Their sponge wasn't too bad, but it just felt like it held the product even when like it had been in my makeup bag, if you know what I mean, and so it just didn't feel the best. Like it would start to feel like it just held build-up of product. Brushworks do good sponges as well, but like I said, I've just never found one that lives up to the Real Techniques Miracle Complexion Sponge for me. Okay. Up next is powder. So obviously there are a variation of powders, and I feel like it can be a little hard to choose. Personally, I still stick with pressed powder at the moment. I do want to give loose powder a try, but I feel like particularly if you're more at a beginner level, Pressed powder is simpler, so I just use the Rimmel Stay Matte. I have literally never used another pressed powder. This is my go-to. I use it in the shade Transparent because then obviously I'm not having to find a shade to match like my foundation and my skin, and so Transparent just works the best as it doesn't really have a shade to it. So yeah, if you're just starting out, I would recommend pressed powder as it's just simpler. I feel like there are a lot more technicalities to loose powder. And so I'm just going to be applying this with the Real Techniques powder brush. Again, I've had this for ages. I absolutely love it. It's the only powder brush I think I've ever really used. Then again, I think I used to use Wilko brushes. So if you are looking for just a cheap brush to start with, Wilko do like kind of decent brushes. They have like really cheap ones and then like more of a premium range. However, personally, I just recommend Real Techniques as I've never found a brush as good. So I'm just gonna swirl that around in there. I know some people just powder places that they feel they need to set most. So I feel like for a lot of people that's usually like the T-zone kind of area. However, I'm a powder the whole face kind of girl. I like to set all of my makeup. I tend to like tap more on my eyes instead of brush. I just feel like it sets my eyes a lot better. However, I will kind of like swipe on the rest of my face. But like I said, some people do like to just set their under eyes, maybe just like the T-zone, I guess more like oily areas, or like I guess places that just feel like they need more setting. But I've just always been someone who prefers to set my entire face. I like the rest of my makeup to set. And I feel like if you are on more of a beginner level, sometimes, at least for me, I feel like if I weren't to set my whole face, my bronzer wouldn't go on as smoothly, you know, like it would kind of stick into the foundation a little bit more. And so I just feel like it's easier to set the entire face. But obviously it's completely up to preference. I feel like that's just the thing with makeup. Most things are just preference. Like, you learn what you like for you and what works for you and you stick to that. And then I just like to set my neck as well, as I feel like the only thing with this foundation that I would say is I've noticed even when I've done my entire makeup, it still can transfer quite easily. Like, when I've done my makeup and then I've got dressed, sometimes I honestly have to get someone to help me get like a top on if it's like, I guess kind of like tight over here, if that makes sense, to like pull over, because otherwise it sometimes kind of like takes a bit of my makeup off. But honestly, I'm not sure if that's the foundation, the powder, I'm not sure. And honestly, I'm not sure if that just happens with all makeup, to be quite honest. You know, like I said in the intro, I'm not a professional. I'm just someone who loves makeup and has been wearing makeup and like really not taking makeup seriously. I feel like that's not the way to word it, but someone who has been like super into makeup for many, many years. I am going in with bronzer now. I'm using the Benefit Hoola bronzer. This is a really good bronzer. I still absolutely love this. It's the only bronzer I've ever used, and it's also the only bronzer I've ever found that really works with my skin tone. Obviously, I feel like there are a lot more bronzers out there now compared to when I first was looking for a bronzer, probably in like 2017, I want to say I started using this, because I think I started using it out of an advent calendar that I got. But yeah, obviously there are a lot more options for bronzers now, I feel like, and like different tones and stuff. But yeah, this has just always been my go-to. I'm just using the Real Techniques multitask brush. I feel like this is a good brush to just get in this kind of like under the cheek area. You could also use an angled brush as well. I honestly used to use this powder brush. If you go back and watch old videos, I used to use that powder brush to bronze, and I'm just gonna pop it kind of just under the cheekbone and then up along the side here onto my forehead just a little bit. I know that is a trick for bronzer if you do struggle with bronzer, just a bit on the jawline. I like to take it completely down my neck. Usually I do this with a powder brush, but I might as well do it right now while I've got this brush. I know there is a trick with bronzer, if you struggle with bronzer, where you do kind of like a 3. So you'll start like on your forehead kind of here, or like near your temple, and then you'll kind of work it down to under here and then around onto the jawline. So if you're struggling with bronzer, that's definitely worth a go. But yeah, I feel like bronzer isn't something that is too precise. I feel like you can kind of not mess up, but I feel like it's easier to get away with messing up probably with bronzer than it is like a contour, because bronzer is just more, I feel like, natural anyway. Obviously bronzer is just there to bronze. It's there to give kind of like a natural, almost sun-kissed kind of bronze, I guess, in the places that the sun would hit the easiest. Because again, even when I go back to old videos where I like was like tan, you can actually see in those videos that my face was kind of more tan in these kind of bronzed areas, and so that's quite interesting. I guess. But yeah, usually, like I said, I would take the powder brush for the jawline and the neck just to kind of blend it out. Just gonna add a little bit more. Again, how much you bronze is probably down to preference more than anything. Okay, bronzer done. Now moving into blush. So I'm using the MAC Mineralized blush. This is just in the shade Warm Soul. I really love this shade. I feel like it has a slight shimmer to it, but nothing too much, nothing crazy. And I just love the way this sits on my cheeks. I love that it's quite a light pink kind of shade, I feel like. And I'm just taking the Real Techniques blush brush and I'm just going to tap in there a few times, tap off the excess. That's one thing I feel like I'm not very good at doing with all of my makeup, but obviously, particularly if you're a beginner, I feel like it's always a good idea to tap off the excess so that you're not like applying too much. Particularly with a new product, I would recommend tapping off the excess, because obviously you don't know the pigment of the product yet. But yeah, even if you're not a beginner, honestly, it's probably just best to always tap off the excess. I just forget. And then I'm just going to do the classic smile to apply, going from the apples of my cheeks upwards. A more affordable blush I have used that I could probably recommend. I have used a Beauty Crop duo before, and that had a really nice like pinky blush in it. So it could be worth looking into the Beauty Crop. I haven't really used too many other products from them. It came in a glossy box. Okay, I think that's enough. But yeah, I really loved that blush. Again, if you're someone watching this who has recommendations for cheaper blushes and bronzers and stuff, as that's like the area I'm struggling to find cheaper products that I like the shade of, be sure to drop them in the comments to help anyone out. Okay, so now we're moving on to highlighter. So this product is a bit more affordable. I think this retails at maybe like £7, I want to say. I haven't really looked recently, but this is the e.l.f. Metallic Flare Highlighter. e.l.f. is a really good brand if you're looking for affordable makeup. As well as Revolution, they do really good highlighters as well. This is just what that looks like. Mine is in the shade White Gold. Obviously they do other shades, but I just feel like a white gold shade goes best with my skin tone. It's what I like in my makeup. And I'm just taking the Spectrum A10 small fan brush to apply this. I did use an angled brush for a time, but I've kind of gone back to preferring a fan brush, but you can use an angled brush. I used to just use the tip of an angled blush brush, honestly, and even when I used an angled brush before, let me find the brush, it was just this Kylie Cosmetics angled brush that I guess is more intended to be like a blush brush or like a bronzing contouring brush, but I would just use the tip of this to apply my highlighter. You can also use an eyeshadow brush if you want super precise highlighter. That works too, just like a little eyeshadow brush. Yeah, there are many ways to apply highlighter. Whoopsie. There are many ways to apply highlighter. I do actually have a tutorial up on my channel on how to apply highlighter, so if you're interested in that, I will link it in the icon in the description. But yeah, I'm just gonna swirl this in here, like swipe it in here a bit, and then you could tap it off, again, probably recommended, but I like a good pop of highlight, so I don't tend to do that. And then I just like to, currently I just highlight my inner corner of my eye and my cheekbones. I've stopped highlighting my nose, I stopped liking it. So I just kind of do the duck face kind of pout to kind of get the cheekbone structure, and then just pop it on the cheekbone for a nice pop of highlight. And honestly, even for a more affordable, cheaper highlight, this is so good. Just the other side. And like I said, I just feel like the white gold goes really, really well with the rest of my makeup, and like it is really nice on my skin tone. I've come to find, for me personally, I don't like more gold highlighters. I like to stick to like lighter white gold kind of highlighters, I feel like. But you know, you can use whatever shade you feel like suits your skin tone. And obviously once I get to inner corner highlight, we'll come back to that later. But yeah, I would really recommend that if you're looking for a cheap highlighter. I absolutely love it. It lasts really, really well. I've had this for ages. I have actually seen these in TK Maxx a little bit cheaper as well. So it's worth having a look in TK Maxx if you have one near you. Anyway, okay, so now moving on to the eyes, which I feel like is the most fun part of any look for me. Eyeshadow is where I will, I guess, get the most creative. So I'm starting with the Revolution X Roxy Cherry Blossom palette. If you're looking for an affordable palette for spring, I would highly recommend this. It has some really beautiful pink and purple shades in here, and a lot of them aren't as bold as they look in the pan in here. However, I'm keeping it simple. I'm just taking this shade Vanilla right here as a base for my eyeliner. And so I'm just going to be taking the Kylie Cosmetics medium blending brush for this, and I'm just going to pop that all over my lid. And I feel like it just smooths out where I concealed my lids as well. So once that's done, we're going to get into the super fun part. So I'm going to be taking the Morphe Petal Passion palette. This is just what it looks like. Very spring, very pink. And I'm going to be taking this shade right here, which is called It's You. And it's kind of a shimmery hot pink almost. Like, I feel like it really goes well with this top. And I'm going to be taking that on an angled brush. This is the Spectrum A17 brush. I believe this is a brow brush. I just feel like it has the perfect tiny angle to get this more precise. I would recommend this way of doing, like, I guess like eyeliner, particularly winged eyeliner, if you're just starting out or you are just not very good at eyeliner like me. For me, I'm terrible at liquid liner. That's just like my weakness. And I'm a bit better at pencil kind of liner, but you know, sometimes it still goes wrong, and when it does, it can be hard to fix. And so also, if you're going for a softer look as well, I feel like an eyeshadow is a good option, as it's not as intense as an actual eyeliner. But yeah, like I said, if you're not great at eyeliner like me, or you just want something softer, or you're just starting out, I would recommend starting with eyeshadow. So I'm just gonna dip into there a few times, tap off the excess, and I'm gonna start by just lining my upper lash line first before we even think about the wing. I feel like this is a really cool way of being more colourful with eyeliner as well, because you don't have to buy a bunch of colourful eyeliners. You can just use an eyeshadow palette. Even though this is a brow brush, I do feel like it's perfect for this, especially when it comes to the wing, because it kind of has like the perfect shape. Okay, one eye is done on just lining my lash line. I have really been loving this pink liner lately. I feel like I said in the intro, it's just the perfect look for spring. And like I said, it's good as well because if it goes wrong, you can fix it a lot easier because it's powder. So now we're gonna start on the wing. So just tapping back in there. I'm gonna come in a little bit closer. Hopefully you can still see. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna use the angle of the brush to almost stamp my like outline of my wing. So I'm gonna and then I just extend it just a little bit further than like the length of this, but obviously the length of your wing is completely up to you. I like mine just a little bit extended, and then I'm just gonna connect it and fill it in. Okay, it's not the best, but again, like I said, the fact that it's eyeshadow, it's softer anyway, and it's a lot easier to kind of fix up, but I'm happy with that. I feel like it goes different every time, it really depends. But yeah, just the same on this side, kind of almost stamp and drag a little bit, just to extend it just a little bit above there, and then bring it down just a little bit and fill it in. So that is what the wings look like. And then to finish off this part of the like eyeliner, I guess, I like to take just a little bit more and just kind of go kind of halfway under my lower lash line. I just feel like it blends it a little bit so it doesn't look as harsh. And it's like, you can see there, I just kind of lightly touched up the edge with my finger, and it kind of just fixed where there was a little bit too much. It had come down a little bit too low. And so it's super easy to touch up as well, I feel like. Okay, that side wasn't as easy, oh no. But this is just gonna prove how easy this is to fix. So I'm gonna do my lower lash line on this side. You can go all the way across if you want. I just like the halfway kind of look. And as you can see, I got a little bit too much here when I was trying to clean it up with my finger. So I'm gonna go in with my concealer and just show you how easy this is to touch up. So I've just brushed off the end of my concealer so there's not too much there, as obviously I don't want a lot. And I'm just gonna dot a little bit of concealer on there, get my sponge, take the tip. You can also use this as a trick to sharpen the wing as well if you wanted. You could pop some concealer along the edge and like swipe, and it just kind of sharpens the wing a little bit. But as you can see, that has cleaned up nicely. So I'm just gonna take my blush brush, as it's quite a small tapered brush, so we're not ruining the rest of the makeup, and just set that. Of course a mistake happens when I'm trying to film a tutorial, but it's fine. It just shows you that this doesn't always go right, but it's easy to fix, like I was saying when we first started this eyeliner process. So that is the eyeliner done. As you can see, it's softer than if I were to use a pencil, and that like lower lash line part just kind of connects it a little bit more, I feel like. So now we're gonna go in with inner corner highlight. Like I said before, going back in with the e.l.f. one. I'm just gonna use, I can't open it. I just like to use my little finger. You can use a small eyeshadow brush, you can use a flat brush. One trick I do love if you want a super pop of highlight is to take like a small eyeshadow brush, kind of like this. This is the Kylie Cosmetics small eyeshadow brush. But obviously you can use any small eyeshadow brush or any flat brush. And what you would do is you would take setting spray and you would like spray the brush first, then put it in your highlighter, and it just gives an extra pop. So if you want your highlighter on your inner corner to stand out even more, which I feel like this is a really good highlighter anyway, but if you want it to stand out even more, or you want just like more of an intense inner corner highlight, I used to absolutely love the trick of like wetting my flat brush or wetting my eyeshadow brush before applying my highlighter. I feel like you can do it either way. You can wet the brush first and put it in the product, or you can put the product on the brush and wet it first. I feel like actually maybe I used to put the product on the brush and then wet it, but either way you get just a better pop of highlight if that's something you would like. Okay, inner corner highlight is done, so now we are moving on to mascara. I used to do my brows, but I used to only use clear gel through them. I'd just kind of like brush them through with a clear brow gel just to set them in place. So personally for me, I don't actually do anything with my brows. I ran out of brow gel a while ago. Well, it started to go a bit gross, so I stopped using it, and I'm yet to find a cheap one. Like, whenever I look at cheaper brands in stores, they never seem to have brow gels. So yeah, currently I don't really do anything with my brows, but obviously you can if that's something you prefer. So I'm jumping straight into mascara, and I'm taking the e.l.f. Mineral Infused Mascara. I picked this up at TK Maxx for $3.99, however it does only retail for £5. So it's a really affordable mascara, and it is actually a really good mascara as well. I absolutely love it. So this has been my favourite mascara at the moment. So I'm just going to pop that on. I feel like mascara is pretty self-explanatory. However, again, I feel like how much you apply is completely up to you. I generally like quite a bit of mascara. And I tend to kind of like shimmy apply mine, kind of like that to kind of separate the lashes, or I'll like blink apply it. See, I feel like that's so good for a cheap mascara. So if you're looking for a cheap mascara, I would really recommend the e.l.f. Mineral Infused one. Plus it's great because it's infused with minerals, so it's like good for your lashes, which is awesome. I'm hoping this tutorial's made enough sense. But if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments. I'll try and help as best I can. Or there might be somebody else who can help. Okay, top lash is done. I do know some people just do their top lashes. Personally, I prefer to do my bottom lashes too. So I'm just gonna do those. I feel like bottom lashes take so much more concentration. Okay. Lashes are done. So we finished the eyes. I love how this turned out. Yeah, so we finished the eyes, so now all that's left is for the lip. So I'm using the Revolution X Roxy lip gloss. This actually came in a lip kit, however recently my lip liner has broken. I didn't realise my lip liner was broken, but recently I've been loving using this without the lip liner anyway. And again, even the lip kit was super affordable. Revolution is just a really good affordable brand, and I absolutely love Revolution's makeup. It's really good quality for like a really good price. They also do a really good mascara, and I'm just gonna apply the lip gloss. I feel like this is the perfect lip gloss for spring because it has a really nice light pink tint to it. And I can say, if you're like me and you're really particular with lip glosses, you don't like when they're too sticky, this one is not too sticky at all. I absolutely love it. And it applies really nice and easily, which I love too. And I also just feel like it goes so well with so many looks. Like I can wear this with pretty much any look because it's such a neutral kind of lip gloss. So now we are just finishing the look with setting spray. So I'm just using the Revolution Hydrate and Fix setting spray. And yeah, I absolutely love this. I love that it's hydrating as well as like setting my makeup in place. It's long wear, it has oil control, and it has hyaluronic acid in, which obviously is good for hydration. So yeah, I absolutely love this. It has been my go-to setting spray for a long time. I have used high-end ones as well that I've absolutely loved. I've used the Urban Decay All-Nighter setting spray. Love that as well if you have more of a higher budget. However, this is a really good, cheap setting spray. I think it was like £7 and it lasts a really long time. So I'm just going to spritz that, and then I like to kind of fan it down a little bit, dry it down a bit faster. I feel like I've missed this side of my face. There we go. Just set everything in place. I feel like this also gives kind of a slight dewy texture, nothing too crazy, just a little bit. I guess it's the hydration. Okay, so this is the finished look if I come in close. Very pink, very spring. I absolutely love it. I feel like this wasn't the best tutorial. Hopefully it was easy enough for you guys to follow if you wanted to follow along, but I feel like I wasn't the best at explaining things. Hopefully as I start doing more videos like this, I'll get better at that, as obviously I've done videos like this in the past where I've kind of walked you guys through how I've done my favourite makeup look or my winter makeup look or whatever, but I feel like this one was more with the intent of actually not teaching, but trying to explain things in more detail for people to actually follow along instead of just showing you how I did a makeup look, if that makes sense. I feel like I'm not explaining it very well, but hopefully this makeup look made enough sense that if you want to follow along, you can. I did just want to add in as well, of course, I know that not everybody will have the Morphe palette for this, so obviously you can use any product, and you know, that covers kind of any products that I've used that are a little bit more expensive. Of course, you can use any like similar shade if you have a similar shade in a palette. The Revolution X Roxy palette could be a really good one, as it appears to have some slightly similar shades. But yeah, so obviously you don't have to use the exact products. If you have something similar, you can use that. If you have a blush you prefer, you can use that. If you have like a bronzer you prefer, you can use that. It's completely up to you. Let me know if you decide to try this tutorial or follow along or do a similar look. If you do, be sure to let me know how it goes in the comments, or you can tag me on Instagram. I'll have my Instagram up on the screen somewhere, so you can tag me on there if you like. I hope this video was helpful. If it was, then be sure to give it a huge thumbs up to let me know. If you're new to my channel, then be sure to subscribe right over here and turn on post notifications so you don't miss an upload. And I also have a vlog channel. If that is something you'd be interested in, you can subscribe right here. If you would like more content from myself, then you can click here for my last video, which was that 10-minute makeup challenge I mentioned in the intro, or you can click here for another video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next week with that brush cleaning tutorial. Bye guys!